Hello, and welcome to Havoc Wargaming, dedicated to bringing you the uncommon. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Ron, and today we're going to do a review of the new Crooked Dice feature pack, the result of a recent Kickstarter, Dracula. So let's get started. I am a large fan of Crooked Dice and their 7 TV collections and different gaming features, and sort of on a lark. Usually I try to avoid games that I wonder about their replayability, but for some reason I was sold on the idea of Dracula, which is one of the newest feature packs that have come out from Crooked Dice. For those of you who aren't familiar, Crooked Dice is changing over its system. In fact, part of it is because of this game, to a more generic set of rules. They're going to have one new book that will apply to all the different venues or genres or areas that you might want to play in. Then there'll be genre books that help specify the rules a little bit more directly to particular genres. And then within those genres, there will be feature packs, which, at least for the time being, are going to be in these little VHS packages with things necessary for that particular feature. Now, they've already been going that way for a while. There's a number of different fantasy extensions or feature packs that have already been produced this way. And then for 7 TV, there was recently Vlad's Army. This one is, like many of the others I just mentioned, is for fantasy, which may be a bit of a surprise at first. But one of the things it showed when the Kickstarter was going on and people were then trying to get their hands on the fantasy game so they'd know how to play it, the fantasy game was out of print. And Carl became aware of the problems he's going to have with continuing with new expansions like this with those old box sets. So he's going away from that to a book version. The Kickstarter ended on that recently. I've participated in that. When I get it, I'll share that information with you as well. But this is the feature pack for Dracula. As I already alluded to, I'm a little concerned about what it may have for a replayability. It is based very, very heavily on the novel by Bram Stoker. And you could do some other things that cover some parts of the story perhaps that aren't covered or aren't detailed within one of the chapters of this, but it is somewhat limited in its purpose that way. Everything comes, like we mentioned already, in a little VHS kit, very much fitting the genre that they go to for being television or movies. It comes with an episode guide. This is a book describing the actual episodes of this feature, in this case, being Dracula. These books will be designed to tell you the new rules that are specific to that game. This one, for instance, has replaced the countdown deck, which I think is being changed to the script deck. I'm not sure on that, but it is being changed. It's losing the name countdown. I think it's going to use that for some genres. They have a generic term that will apply to the basic game, and then some of the genres will specify a more specific term. And this one is the diurnal phase and diurnal deck. Instead of it being a countdown of many scenes left, it is the time of day, and either side will get more and more advantages or disadvantages based on the placement of the sun, as you might expect for a vampire game. We'll go into that a little bit more in a moment. So much I can't pronounce of this game. The epistolary cards and decks. These deal with the more investigative aspect of the game and give Mina Harker a little more power than she often has represented in the movies that have been done in the past. It's, again, based very heavily on Bram Stoker's novel, where she's helping to bring the sides together to reach the end. We'll cover those in a little bit more detail as well. Of course, there's what they're calling new statuses. They're actually very similar to the statuses, as you may imagine, that are already in Vlad's Army. I say imagine because, of course, that's also dealing with vampires. And there's a change in how they're handling and stealing the scene. So we'll go and discuss a little bit of what some of these changes are and show you some of the different items that go along with it. The diurnal deck is divided into times of day, and unlike the previous countdown decks where there were basically 3 sets, Act 1, Act 2, and Finale, typically, they're now broken down to dawn, day, dusk, and night. And the chapters in the book will tell you which of these you're using and how many of each one, instead of looking at that chart that's in the basic rule book, and instead of it being based on your table size, it's based on the individual chapter size and what story they're trying to tell with that chapter. So sometimes more of the cards are nighttime than they are dawn or dusk. So just to give you an example of what some of them may say, I'm going to take a random one. This is a dawn card, and this particular one says, quickening sky. All stars and co-stars may make an immediate 3-inch movement action. I'm going to take a random day card here. This one is, the day is running quick. Draw the next 2 diurnal deck cards, play them both immediately. This is a dusk card, so it's starting to get darker. And it says, evening's grim fancies. All presence attacks receive a free extra die until your cast is next on the screen. Of course, present attacks are going to fall very heavily onto those vampires. So it's an example of the vampires getting a little stronger as the sun goes down. And now for night. Night. Dreadful things of gloom and fear. All heroic extra models must turn 180 degrees. So I guess they're confused by the darkness and they could now be facing the wrong way or taken by surprise. So as is true with any of these new packages, particularly the ones that are being worked alongside of the Edge Hill University. This is another one of the Edge Hill partnerships. The art is really nice on a lot of these. For those of you who aren't familiar, Crooked Dice has done a number of projects alongside of Edge Hill University, and I think this is brilliant. I mean, it's helpful, no doubt, for Crooked Dice because it probably is giving them a break on employee costs, but it's brilliant for the students because it's giving a number of students hands-on opportunities towards making a commercial project. And they may, it's cross-genre, so it's not necessarily game writers that are involved. They could be graphic artists or writers or proofreaders or whatever, but they work together to put these games together, and I think that's an interesting project. I think it's good for Carl. I think it's good for the students. And I think it's good for the end product. I really think a lot of the things that have come out of Edge Hill are very interesting thoughts, new changes and advancements in the game, and just some incredibly beautiful art. The gadget cards have been replaced with artifact cards. And the artifact cards are pretty much the same as gadgets, except like you may imagine, they're built around the genre of vampires and Bram Stoker's Stokerverse. There are new sets of tokens for the 2 new statuses in the game. Those tokens those statuses are Bitten and Shaken. Shaken is kind of their version of insanity rolls for, say, Call of Cthulhu or something. And Bitten, well, that's kind of obvious. That helps lead towards your possibility of becoming a vampire yourself. Those were originally done for Vlad's army, and they're pretty much the same. These are new, and this is pretty interesting to me. These are the apostolary cards, I think it's how it's said. These represent various written sources that were available to Mina Harker in the novel. So they might be newspaper clippings, they might be journals. They're divided into contract letters and clippings. Dr. Seward, that's one of the characters in the game, Dr. Seward's diary. Jonathan Harker, Mina's fiance, later husband, Jonathan Harker's journal, Mina's own journal, and the Tome of the Vampire. So they're in those different categories. They're kept separate on their part. Certain characters have access to some of these, like you might imagine Seward, one of them is his journal, so he'll have access to that. Mina has access to a number of them, but in all these cases, you pick, like in Mina's case, because she has access to multiple books, she will decide which book she's going to use in a particular chapter, and then she'll pull a card. I think she has to choose between 2, and she'll pull up to 2 cards. So she can pull 2 from one of those sources or one of the 2 different she chose. So to give you an idea of the kind of things these are, I'm going to just take the one off the top here. This is from the Tome of the Vampire. And it says, consecrating the ground. We must trace each of these boxes, and when they are ready, we must either capture or kill the monster in his lair, or you must sterilize the earth that no more he may seek safety within it. Then it'll go on to give you the game aspects. There can be no sanctuary for the vampire menace. Effect. Place the blast's 3-inch radius anywhere within 12 inches of the model playing this card, and an enemy model touched by this template cannot use their special effects until your cast is next on screen. So it's sort of like a gadget card. It gives you sort of a special ability or special effect. You can use them once in the game, I think in every case. Those represent Nina's further research into the matter, or the different characters involved, and helps make up for some of the more literary aspects of the book that would normally be lost in a game like this. I mentioned Bitten and Horrified. It is not Stunned. Bitten and Stunned is a role in the game already. Bitten. Models who are bitten are in a twilight state somewhere between life and undeath. Whilst alive, the status cannot be removed with plot points in the usual manner, but once they reach 0 health, lay the bitten model lying where it fell. After the bitten model reaches 0 health, the villainous player can roll 1d6 in the end phase of each turn to see if the model transforms into the undead. On a roll of 1, remove the bitten status and replace the fallen model with a standing uncanny undead model. The uncanny undead profile is now added to the villainous player's count. Horrified. Horrified models are shocked or scared. To make a fight or shoot attack, horrified models must pass a spirit statistic test or must count their strike number as half, rounded up against enemy models. Horrified models may not use presence attacks. So those are some effects to make it more fitting to a horror sort of game. Stealing the Scene, I mentioned, is going to change a little. Stealing the Scene is a lot weaker in this than it normally is. It says if the player steals the scene at any time in a chapter of 7TV Dracula, you must use the rules below instead of those set out in the 7TV Fantasy box set. Once per chapter. A player can choose to steal the scene in their end phase. The player may activate a single star or co-star again this turn for free, even if they have already activated this turn. However, the chosen model cannot activate any other models by any means, for example, with the leader special effect. So instead of giving all of your characters a chance to activate again and letting you collect plot points towards that end, as far as I can tell, there's no plot points gathered, but there's no need because you can activate the only character you can activate for free anyway. So that's a change. It's going to way weaken the stealing the scene. It's not a change for the basic rules. It's just for this, and that's because they're trying to keep that more personal nature of this game to fit the personal nature of the genre and the source material, being Bram Stoker. There's rules in here for how to handle campaign play, and then there's of course, like always, there's a little history of the Dracula series and Baron's production of it. It explains one of the discrepancies of the game. One of the scenarios is not very Bram Stoker-like. Most of them are, but one is pretty much isn't, and so they write that off as being a hollowification of the feature, and that's the Battle of Whitby. So it describes, there's a cast of characters. It describes all the different character types that are available in the game briefly. There's these little notes here that are like the apostolatory sort of comments that help with some of the flavor of this rule book. And then there's, 5 scenarios, I think? Yeah, five different chapters included in the book. Except for the Battle of Whitby, they're based around the things that are pretty much in the book. I think they'd be mostly easy to put together scenery-wise with things you have. There's the escape, for instance, is in a Transylvanian village, but you could easily put that together with medieval buildings or something to that nature. A little harder, I think, is Escape from Whitby needs a ship, and it takes place in a terraced hillscape. I'm probably going to use some of my Venetian terrain to build that up from Carnivale. Then beyond that, it seems to get a little easier. There's a wrecked church and a churchyard, and then Castle Dracula, which could be done with Gothic walls or something, I guess. Those also describe certain characters. They give you a cast list. You don't choose your cast list for that. The set that I bought, at least, came with most of what I need for the heroic figures in those sites. The main characters of the game came with this set. They probably they won't now. That was with the Kickstarter, I mean. But they are available on the Crooked Dice webpage. And I bring that up because where things are a little awkward is that there's a lot of figures that aren't theirs, that they do not produce, that may be a little harder to track down. I've got some just purchased some Transylvanian villagers, for instance, from West Wing for their Vampire Wars line. I'm still looking to pick an Eastern Orthodox priest I like to be the Transylvanian priest. So there's some little things like that that I'll be filled anywhere. I need terriers for one of the adventures, and I right now own 1 or 2 terriers, and I think I need 4. I did not show you the tokens. I told you about them. Well, they're very similar to the fantasy tokens. They're painted MDF with 7 TV logos on the back side. I don't know if you can see these. I don't know if this camera will actually focus this close, but then they have either the mouth for bitten or the scared face for the horrified. The cards themselves, I don't know if this is going to stay this way. It must, because I don't see a normal card in there. The Dracula card is huge. It has all the information that a normal card would have, but it's very, very big. And it's frankly, I don't think it's quite as nice looking as the normal cards. I brought one sample of a card. This is Van Helsing's card. I hope that will focus on there. I think the cards are attractive. They do not show, like is usually done, they do not have an image of a figure, and it makes it a little hard to know which figures are which to start off with. But instead they have an artistic rendition of a portrait of each of the players. But it has the other stats. The stats are pretty much the same as any other 7 TV game. Same sort of quality. They have the explanations for everything they do on the back. Van Helsing, for instance, here has a flaming torch. A few of them are carrying flaming torches. He has a wooden stake, which is deadly and does additional health. He has a revolver, and he has iron nerve. Strikes on 10. Yeah, weakens your opponent. And there's descriptions of those on the back, like as usual. I'm not going to show you all the different figures I got, since I'm mostly doing a review of the feature pack itself. And I did get quite a few figures here, and they're all typically to the usual quality of Crooked Dice. This is Dracula himself. Again, I hope this will, I don't know if this camera can actually, this new lens of mine will even focus that close. But that's Dracula, give you some basic idea. It's not necessarily, a lot of the figures I like. This Dracula isn't necessarily the best looking Dracula I've ever seen, but he's not horrible. I'll use him. That's what comes in the package. It looks all very interesting right now. Some of the additions they made to the rules sound like a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to using those. And we'll do that here as well. I'll do a campaign here online and let you see some of it in action alongside of me. I hope you found that interesting. I don't know how many of you actually play 7TV. If you do play the game, go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you have any other ideas for further content you'd like to see us produce here on Cry Havoc Wargaming, we look for the comment section for those examples and advice as well. If you've enjoyed the video and found it useful, I hope you'll hit like. If you'd like to continue to receive more notifications for videos like this one that may help you determine how to better spend your time or money in your tabletop wargaming hobby, then please hit subscribe and ring our notification bell. Until next time, cheers.